Let's hear this interview in full now that we've been talking about in the first hour of the programme. We know that many countries have now told their nationals to leave Ukraine. Others are evacuating embassy staff. The Ukrainian president has said, quote, panic is the best friend of our enemy. Vadym Prystaiko is the Ukrainian ambassador to the UK. I began by asking him whether he thought people should be leaving or staying.
I believe that each and every government has the prime responsibility of their own citizens and their own officials in the embassies and, companies, tourists, everybody. So I understand why everybody is pulling out their citizens. But we believe in Ukraine that there should be a very thin balance about the panic which is actually spreading in Ukraine, that everybody is sort of abandoning the ship. So what we have to do, I guess, that if we have to withdraw something, we don't have to do it very public. We can discreetly tell our embassies to leave without, going on press and doing, because Ukrainians are seeing it, and not just people, the money leaving, the economy is struggling, all of this. Air companies started to cancel their flights to Ukraine. This is really bad sign.
Are companies pulling out? How is this going to affect your economy?
If air companies, air flights have been cancelled, we have just already two companies who decided not to fly to Ukraine right now. We just stop doing the regular flights. This is just threatening the normal life of people and economies. And the companies, we're talking about high liquidity resources, financial resources. They're pulling them out of the banks and bonds because they do not see that this safe for their resource, for financial resource.
Would you not do that if you were them?
I would be very careful, knowing how difficult it is for the nation to survive a war. Or maybe I will consider that maybe Putin just wants this. He won't be shooting a fire once, but will stay there, threatening us with an imminent danger of conflict, and at the same time letting us, crumble as the society and economy.
Do you think an invasion, Ambassador, is imminent?
What we believe from the different sources, especially intelligence, the Western intelligence, and our own intelligence, this is very real danger. But the problem with differences with us and you, that we've been living through it for 7 years. We already lost 13,500 people from this conflict, fueled by Russians. And this is not something very new to us, which we have to be threatened. For many people abroad, in West, when the outlets, media outlets like you, are trying to cover it right now, then people realize how difficult and how dangerous it is.
I was talking to a commentator, an expert last night, who was saying that part of the story the media is missing is what is already going on in Ukraine by the Russians. Could you tell me more about that? What is already going on?
You're right. I don't want to go too far in history, and I appreciate the knowledge of people around the globe of events, but just a couple of words. 2014 started with them grabbing the Crimean Peninsula in very hybrid attack. It's 2 million people. It's not a small piece. It's a huge land with 2 million people. Then they came to east of Ukraine. It's another 4, I don't know how many millions of that. It cost 1.8 million displaced persons, more or less internal immigrants within Ukraine. 13,000 people already dead, and 7% of territory occupied. So it is serious war we're having each and every day. Soldiers are dying, not each and day, but a couple of them a week are dying from this, sometimes bombardments. So that's a reality, everyday reality for Ukrainian.
And I'm sorry I don't know this, but I don't. Are you telling me that soldiers are dying on a weekly basis at the moment?
Absolutely. It's, most of people who I mentioned, 13,500 people already dead over 7 years, they're unfortunately civilians. Lesser portion of them are military from the fight with the forces supported by Russians, but sometimes led by Russian officers and soldiers, and all these people who are coming to being paid to fight, or what they have in their minds. But that's what's really supported over the 7.5 years. It will be 8 years quite soon. So that's unfortunately very usual sort of life for Ukrainians.
And so we turn to what the media is now focused on, the imminent invasion that is being reported. Do you think that is being exaggerated by the West? The United States is saying there could be an invasion on Wednesday, of just a few days' time.
I agree. That's what now is said, but people mostly mean the full-scale invasion, the tanks with Russian flags, because so far they've been hiding behind the hybrid. Like in Crimea, they came without insignia. We knew who are they. And Putin at the time told that has nothing to do with us. Only after years he recognized that they were Russian soldiers. But he went with a different story, that they're there to protect civilians against I don't know what. So this is hybrid, and this is the first time humanity is faced with such a huge scale hybrid attack, when you can't even say who is attacking you. This is what now been different. The Russians are staying with their own forces, 100,000 of them on our border. But Ukraine is ready to fight even with this number.
So do you think a full-scale invasion, full-scale, is imminent, could happen this week? Do you think it's likely?
We believe that it might happen, and we see that everybody is trying to diffuse the situation. Secretaries of State of UK is coming to Moscow. People are talking over the telephone. Macron just was in Moscow and then in Kiev. So there is a still possibility, very thin possibility, that this catastrophe can be averted.
If there is a full-scale invasion, his army is so mighty, 130,000 troops already at the border. What chance has your country got, Ambassador?
Let me tell you that Ukraine is not a small nation. This is the biggest by territory in Europe. It's bigger than France or Poland or Germany. We have 40 million plus people. Our active soldiers is 250,000 people. We just enlarged by another 100,000. The reserve comes up to 2 million people. If we have to put up a real fight, we will. We are not nuclear state, you're right, so this different weight, but have to remind you that we were by 1994 a nuclear state, and we agreed to give up these nuclear weapons in return of the promises that we will be defended. This promise was signed by Russia as well. Now we're in a different league and have to find other means, like talking to our partners and asking for the additional weapons to be provided to us, so we will be able to defend. We are on our own land. We're not attacking Russians. That's people sometimes missing. This is not war against Ukraine and Russia. This Russia is coming for us.
And do you expect help from the West with regards to boots on the ground, troops actually on the ground if necessary? The Americans have already ruled that out.
I know. Everybody's saying so. Everybody can't even imagine the situation when something like that is needed. I understand it myself. If Ukraine is asked by some nation, partner nation, friendly nation, to send the soldiers, it will be huge outcry and a huge political debate. What we are trying to tell right now that hopefully we will avert this. If not, Ukrainians will fight at a catastrophic event of full-scale attack when people will start dying, the cities are bombarded. I am, as ambassador, will be obliged, and that will be my obligation, the moral obligation, to ask for everything, including the help of the soldiers.
How do you feel about the fact that President Biden has already ruled out troops on the ground fighting?
I'm not happy. I have family back home. I have my mom, my brother, his family, and we have our people. We've been struggling through it already, and people been killed. Families who lost their soldiers, their sons and daughters. So we believe that we are not abandoned because many people are with us, and many nations are with us, helping, sometimes politically, sometimes financially, helping to recover. Sometimes they even send in the weapons so much needed. So there is, certain mixed feeling. You are being helped, but at the same time, you still wake up each and every morning and check if they're already there. And on Wednesday, 16th, this is something putting people in a very, very difficult set of mind.
Can you understand, though, why the likes of America, the United States, don't want to get involved in a war, in an all-scale ground war? They won't go anywhere near it, Ambassador.
As a professional diplomat, I do understand it. and especially when it's somewhere else, not in your own homeland, it's easier to understand that's for sure. At the same time, we somehow have to tell Russians that we don't have to fight. We don't want anything from you. You don't want us to be, we just left Soviet Union as yourselves. We don't want to get in another one, threaten the whole world with the big nuclear stick. We don't like this model of society anymore. We're trying to build our new sort of way of living, more Western, more democratic, as you wish. And again, we are not threatening. There is nothing we need from them. They are coming for us.
Well, what President Putin wants is he wants a guarantee that your country will not join NATO. And I know that you adopted legislation, it was 2017, reinstating membership in NATO as a strategic goal, and that was then amended in your constitution in 2019. So your goal is NATO membership, and that's what some of the experts talking to me are telling me what Putin wants to stop at all costs. So is joining NATO worth antagonizing Putin like this?
Putin is not a nation, Russia is not a nation by itself. It's not a neutral nation. It's building up its own sort of NATO in the East, so-called Tashkent Pact, uniting all these nations of former Soviet Union, like Belarus and Kazakhstan or Armenia, all of them in their own NATO. On another side of us, this is North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is NATO. We stuck between these two worlds, and we were trying not to antagonize Putin. We tried to find something which will allow us to survive, which will guarantee our independence. So far, we've been signing with Putin all the documents. There is a signature of him and his predecessor under them, and none of them is being respected, like this document I told you about the nuclear weapons. Or another one, when we agreed with Putin that his fleet will stay in Crimea by 2017. This is 22 now. They are not just left the Crimea. They came there with the power, and they are now claiming that their own territory. So there is nothing we can do with him, no document which will be respected. We've tried it all. So we try to find something which will allow us. And it happens to be in Europe. That's NATO, nothing else. We don't want to pick up a specific organization. There is nothing better than that.
But if it averts war, will your country contemplate not joining NATO, dropping that as a goal?
We might, especially be threatened like that, is blackmailed by that and pushed to it. And, we sometimes hear voices from the NATO that, guys, maybe really we will be able to avoid. The question which nation of 40 million people is asking ourselves, how we will survive if they come tomorrow? We will diffuse this particular situation. We will again stay unprotected by anybody, by any friends, not being a member of any alliance, when everybody, all the members, all the neighbors of ours are already in the organization. And frankly, Russia is already bordering NATO. Poland is a member of NATO. Slovak Republic, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey, everybody of them neighboring Russia, are already neighbors. It did not change the security situation. It did not change security of Russia. So just another addition, Ukraine, won't change that much. What he does not like, though, that Ukraine will become someone different from Russia. The Russians will ask Putin, do we really have to be ruled the way you do? Maybe we can be Ukrainians and go in their own way. This is dangerous. It's not for the people of Russia, not for the territory of Russia, but for the particular regime they have right now. Who knows? Maybe they will change and we will not see this anymore.
Ambassador, I just want to be clear about what you just said there so it was not lost in translation. I just want to repeat the question again, if that's okay with you, so that we're clear. When I asked you if your country would contemplate dropping the goal of NATO, if it stopped war, you answered it might. So is that something you're now contemplating in order to avoid war, dropping the goal of joining NATO?
Thank you for asking it again, because you're right. This is what is written in our constitution, and by being ambassador, by saying might, I'm somehow going just a bit against the major document we have. What I'm saying here that we are flexible, trying to find the best way out. if we have to go through some serious, concessions, that's something we might do. That's for sure.
Well, that means you're allowing yourselves to be bullied by Putin and leaving yourselves vulnerable, surely. Is that the right thing to do?
No, it's not. It is not. At the same time, probably I have a hard time explaining to you how difficult it is for somebody to find compromise when you've already been 7 years at least in the war, losing so many people and so many chances. To think that we have again to do something because he pressures us and pressure you. This is something very difficult on an emotional level. To find the courage to make another step.
If you are going to offer to withdraw the goal of joining NATO, maybe you should do that before Wednesday, when it's speculated that's when the invasion will start. So might that announcement come within days?
I don't believe that we will do that. You were asking whether we contemplate the possibility. I don't believe that we will do it. Not because we are stupid and stubborn. That's the difference I told you. We don't know what we will have to sacrifice next day, Thursday, when he comes again. He came unprovoked. Okay. He just came.
Okay, I hear you. The US has threatened Ambassador Swift and severe costs for Russia if it invades Ukraine. The State Department's Derek Chollet said that could come in the form of crippling economic sanctions. Do you think economic sanctions would have the desired effect on Putin?
I believe that the whole world is trying to find some civilized methods or some civilized tools how to fight with the adversary in 21st century. And Putin is still using the toolkit usual 20s, like guns and then tanks. So anything which can help him to stop. He doesn't have to do anything on Wednesday. He won't be hit by this SWIFT and other very, very serious sanctions. The choice is not just in the West as we see it in most of the time. The choice is mostly in Moscow right now. He can stop today, call that the exercises, whatever he calls them, are over, get back home, and he will avoid these really serious sanctions.
Ukraine's military has been locked in a war with Russian-backed rebels in eastern areas near Russia's borders for 8 years. Has the West given that enough focus? The West and its governments and its media?
There are two governments, specifically German and France, who are with us through all these years, trying day after day in the so-called Minsk process and Normandy 4, which means Ukraine, Germany, France, and Russia, trying to resolve it, trying to find some balance between what Russia wants and what Ukraine can give him. And it's a very difficult process, and it's not bringing much of the fruit. So everybody's frustrated for the lack of progress, but we're so thankful they're still with us, still trying. Whether the second part of your question about media, the coverage of media recently, like recent months, is really helping to bring Ukraine to the top of the agenda and, to lighten the whole problem, because we would be fighting even longer without the attention of the societies and the attention of major media. So kind of like that our problem is known. At the same time, Putin is using it. All the efforts of Western leaders, like the Secretary Wallace went to Moscow and tried to have this conversation. Secretary Truss went to Moscow, tried to have these conversations, and they're using these visits to show that you're coming and you're not resolving anything. They're using against West, against leaders, against Ukraine.
And finally, what's your message to our government here in the United Kingdom? What's your message to Boris Johnson and the UK government in terms of the role it can play right now?
I am quite happy to be appointed here. I'm not just trying to please the government of UK. I was at the meeting when Boris Johnson went to Kiev. I went to Kiev as well, so I was at all the meetings. I understand that understanding of situation here. Maybe because in his previous job as Secretary of State of Foreign Affairs, He visited Ukraine at least twice, and he knew the situation very well personally, which allows him to, to grasp the whole reality, the complexity of the issue. But as of now, the support is here from your government, the financial help, and even more importantly, the military help. Sometimes it doesn't mean even the pieces of the equipment. Sometimes it means that the nation stays hand to hand with somebody openly, is not hiding their intentions, and believe that true intentions have to be defended. And there is rules of law and regulations which we all live, international law. That's what you're right now doing. What I wanted, the different governments, other governments, will follow these steps. It will be more united, similar approach from everybody.
Ambassador, thank you very much indeed for spending so much time with me tonight.
Thank you very
I
much.
wish you well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So that's Vadym Prystaiko, the Ukrainian ambassador to the UK. Let's pause there. We'll get your reaction